Hello, my name is Patrick McGinnis, and this is a PSA for Science. This PSA concerns human evolution, more specifically our ancestors, the Neanderthals, and why we succeeded them. As you may or may not know, the Neanderthals were alive between 300,000 and 35,000 years ago, and are one of our closest genetic relatives. When the last Neanderthals walked the Earth around 35,000 years ago, they lived in an era known as the Paleolithic era, or if you want to be more specific, Marine Isotope Stage 3, which was the beginning of the last Ice Age. They also inhabited the areas of Europe and much of Western and Northern Asia. A study conducted in 2006 comparing our genetic codes showed 65,000 base pairings of hominid sequencing, making our DNA 99.5% similar. Though our DNA is that similar, Neanderthals still retain many defining features that we Homo sapiens do not have today. The main difference between us and Neanderthals were our bone structures and our developed vocal cords. Neanderthal bones were much sturdier and rigid than our own. While they were shorter in stature, the length of their arm and leg bones were much longer than ours. Their bodies were also much more resistant to cold due to the tundra-like climate zones that they inhabited. Neanderthals also had undeveloped vocal cords which resembled that of newborn children today, making communication for them not impossible, just more difficult. But how did scientists figure this all out? Through the use of two very important methods for figuring out things about our past. That is, carbon dating and mitochondrial DNA testing. All life on Earth contains carbon, and when you die, the amount of carbon dioxide in you is in equilibrium with an atmosphere at the time of death. But when things die, the carbon dioxide in their bodies is bombarded by neutrons, which in turn turn the carbon into a radioactive isotope known as carbon-14. As the years pass, more and more carbon is converted into carbon-14, and by measuring the rate of decay or half-life of the carbon, scientists are able to figure out when an organism died and what the climate was like at the time of death. Because of this, we were able to tell that when the Neanderthals died, they inhabited regions of taiga biomes, which contain lots of evergreen trees and megafauna, such as the woolly mammoth, cave bear, and cave lion, which are no longer alive today. But what about the DNA sequencing? This is where mitochondrial DNA comes into play. When we find preserved fossils of Neanderthals, any organic material still left on the bones will have mitochondria, which are a part of cells that also contain DNA. We can then harvest these DNA sequences and find out all we want about the Neanderthals, including biological traits such as brain size, brain functionality, and their overall physiology. But what does this all add up to? What can we take from all this knowledge about their traits and lives and tell us something about why we surpassed them? Neanderthal bodies were perfectly suited to withstand the cold climates and to fight off the larger animals that inhabited their areas. They also possessed functioning brains and basic necessities for speech and communication, which would have made them almost as intelligent as we are today. There are many theories as to why Neanderthals died, and many attribute their downfall to a single event or catastrophic period of history. But from the evidence that we've compiled, it's hard to see that there was any single event or factor that attributed to their downfall. It was more likely the result of various factors that killed them. Hopefully this PSA has informed you a lot about our ancestors Neanderthals and what they and the world they lived in worked like.